Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge. Welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. Today, I am in the back at the sanctuary from our long weekend that I talked about a little bit yesterday, and man, we feel revived and relaxed. So again, thank you, Cranberry Lake Campground, for hosting the Fledge's Abundance or Celebration of Abundance. And I talked to a lot of people today, and it was a great time, and we're going to do that every year, we hope. So thank you very much. Also got my Capital City Film Festival. I am dying to get them back in here sometime. So another shout out to them. Pressure them to get us started again. So not in a bad way, though. Keep it safe. And another shout out to thisent.com. Look up their site for all the entertainment stuff that's going on in the area. I think they've started posting episodes of every damn day. So check out this episode sometime soon over there and see what they write about it. Now, today, I'm super excited because I love talking to people that I've never really talked to before. So our good friend, our new friend, I don't know what to call you, Charles, but Charles is with us. And we chatted a little bit, but we've never really talked except for 15 minutes ago. And I can't wait to hear about you. So
where do you want to go, Jerry?
Well, first of all, where are you at? What you doing? What you been doing today?
Can't quite see that. That is a picture of the Frankfurt Lighthouse, which is, we're not far from that right now. So we're hanging out here in my office, if you will, the sunroom, as we call it, in our home. So it's pretty comfortable.
Where's in the map, where is Frankfurt?
We're right over here by about 30 miles south of Traverse City.
Yeah. So that are you on Lake Michigan there?
Not far.
Not far. I love Lake Michigan. Everyone from Michigan has to love Lake Michigan, right?
Yeah. Beaches are some of the best in the world. So it's awesome stuff.
So let's jump into you. Would you mind telling us about you, like where you were born and raised, where you went to school, what brought you to Frankfurt, if that's not where you're from, and all of that?
Well, I started out on the Salish Sea out in the Pacific Northwest. So I'm consider myself one of the original tree huggers out there in Ecotopia, Seattle, and then bounced around the Olympic Peninsula and points to the Pacific Ocean down there in Grayland, and just grew up with a really, really cool environment down there. Extended family all around. Mom was a marine biologist. Dad was an engineer for Boeing and the shipyards. So did a stint in the shipyards, learned a bunch of different trades, electrical and piping and all that good stuff. And they wouldn't let me in the union. He said, no, you're too damn smart. We don't want you in the damn union. So I went back to college and ended up getting a chemical engineering degree at the University of Washington. So from there, I went to go work at the rocket factory in Utah. So that was fun. That was building the space shuttle. And lo and behold, 2.5 months after I started, the Challenger disaster occurred. So that was an interesting time there. We got out of it. We made it successfully again up into space. And after a time, got on the new program for the Advanced Solid Rocket Motor. And when that program was canceled, I said, okay, I'm going commercial. Moved to New Jersey, worked at a development lab there with a company you might know, Honeywell. And did some new products there. Got a little bit tired of that, moved over to Midland, Michigan, and worked at Dow Corning. So again, working on new materials, new projects, coursework along the way. While I was in New Jersey, though, we got a chance to work with an affiliate of MIT's entrepreneur program. So they were just starting this up back in the 90s. This was a new thing for them. So we had an on-site with Honeywell that did a full Master's of Science program in technology management and entrepreneurship. So here I am sitting on this for the last 20 years, working at Dow, retired from Dow, early retirement, went to go work for a Korean company, setting up their business here in North America. Went to go work then for a company called AB Specialty Silicone, which is still in business today, over in Waukegan, Illinois. So lived in Chicago for 5 years. Loved the downtown. Spent a lot of time there. Finally, we had a tragic incident at AB, and 4 of my colleagues, some friends, lost their lives in that. And when those things happen, you really have to reassess where your priorities are. My wife had found a great job in mid-Michigan, so I asked the boss, hey, can I work remote like half the rest of the world? And he said no, and I said, well, sorry, Mac, but I just have to leave. So at that point, I started a company doing plastic additive importation, something I knew but wasn't interfering with their business. And then COVID hit. So back in February, not only did we have like the passing of my father, which was sad but not unexpected, my wife got very sick, not with COVID though, but with something else. And so we just went through all kinds of craziness related to this COVID thing. The company I was working with at the time, a small plastics manufacturing company, said, hey, we need a way to make our face shields not fog up. This is a new product for us. And I said, okay, sure, we can do that. In a matter of a month or so, I had a product for them that they could use and sold them some. And I said, well, geez, if I can do that, I can do this. You know, I can make something for your eyeglasses and your safety glasses. And that's exactly what I did. And then over the next 3 to 6 months, depending on where you mark the starting point, we came up with a simple wipe that goes on glasses and keeps them from fogging up. Right now, we had our first product delivery back at the end of January of this year. And we're currently selling those now online and through direct sales to manufacturing companies. So it's been an interesting road, and I think we're just getting started.
Do you think that COVID helped a lot with that? You know, you sent me a message maybe 6 months ago, and I didn't really understand it, and I kind of just poo-pooed it and skipped over it because it was just LinkedIn, and I don't know, I don't pay enough attention to it. Mm-hmm. And then, so I have readers, and but I wear my mask when I'm out in public, and I never wear my readers when I'm out in public because it's usually only when I'm reading a book or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't till like maybe a month and a half ago, I had my mask on and my glasses on. And mm-hmm. then I was like, oh shit, I understand that product now.
Yeah.
And then right. I really wasn't working with anybody that was in a factory with safety glasses on. Right. So I understand a lot more now.
Yeah, we got it to work pretty well. I mean, it's foggy there, but it's not foggy there. And that's just because we've got this very, very thin coating of special surfactant, special soap on it. Yeah. So we can get into the science if you like, but that's a whole other thing.
I'll follow you anywhere if you want to get into the science. I have worked with coating companies before, and I do have a plastics background, but
wow,
everyone else probably wouldn't give a crap about it. I don't know.
I know the feeling. Believe me, I'll have my wife go by and say, just tone it down a little. It's too much. Yeah.
So tell us, well, first of all, entrepreneurship. How did you know that this was a good idea?
You really do have to look at the marketplace. And so before entering into any setup financially or otherwise, it was a careful look at, how many eyeglasses are used, there's over roughly 600,000 small manufacturing enterprises in USA based on the United States Census Bureau that have less than 100 employees. And that's our target market. So we did the market segmentation and figured out who it was we were going to go to. But the real motivation and the initial motivation for this was to help people. We wanted to get something out to the marketplace that would satisfy a need. And we both wear glasses on a regular basis, so it was definitely a need, especially in the wintertime. Every product that I tested on the marketplace didn't seem to work. And they certainly weren't as convenient. There were towels and things that you're supposed to reuse. And even those that claim to have fog properties didn't seem to, and I tested them. So there'll be a paper coming out later talking about that. But yeah, it's a very exciting thing to be able to help people and make it easy to wear a mask. Now I guess we're getting relaxed restrictions, but there's still times when it's just convenient to be able to walk from a store to the hot, humid summer or vice versa and not have your glasses fog up.
Yeah. When do people's glasses usually fog up? Because like I said, I don't necessarily understand the market. I did wear safety glasses for a lot of my career, but it was always flipping them as soon as I went outside. But if you wear glasses from cool to hot or hot to cool, I imagine they fog up, huh?
Yeah, it's all about we can get into psychometric charts and so forth, but it's the amount of water that's suspended in the air. And so if there's no difference in temperature, you're great. If there's a temperature difference between the glass and the air, the water says, yay, verily, I'll go make myself on that surface, right? I'm going to condense. It's cooler, so I can't stay in the air. Well, if it's a hydrophobic, that it means it hates water, it will not spread out. It'll make a little droplet. And because these are virtually microscopic droplets, they can't do anything with light except spread it out. It works like a little spreading lens. And then there's billions of them, thousands, millions, whatever, on that glass surface. So all the antifogs available today work by changing the glass surface to a water-loving surface. So instead of having the water bead on the surface, it just sheets out in a nice, thin, clear film. Okay. And that's how you see through it.
So is this like a new chemistry that you've invented? Is it patentable, or is it?
It does have a patent pending, and okay. So that'll be finalized. I believe our due date's sometime around October of this year. It'll be done before that. The chemistry is not brand new, but it is relatively new, and the way it's being employed is new, and that's the basis for the patent. We've got a combination of special surfactants in there, what they call a super wetter, and then this. It's a zwitterionic betaine-based surfactant. Okay, so what it means is that normally when you have soap in water, detergent, or whatever you're cleaning your clothes or dishes with, when it gets in water, it makes little balls. Okay, that's typically how it stays in water. It comes a little ball with the soap on the inside and the water on the outside. This stuff makes a film. So when it's suspended in water, it makes a thin film, which makes it better than most of the competitors who are using the other stuff. So this way it stays on the lens more durably, we found, and it's extremely effective. A few molecules thick of this stuff spread out onto the lens is enough to make it work.
Did you do experiments comparing different things like nothing and the competitor and your product? And how did you measure that?
The lab testing for this, the official testing folks who do this kind of thing for a living, ANSI, we call them in the trade, they just this year came out finally with a standard for anti-fog lenses for safety glasses. So in the past, there has been nothing. So basically, it's you breathe on it and see if it fogs up.
Okay.
And that's what we did for the comparison purposes and pretty much for the analysis. But the challenge we ran into, what took so much time, was that we could get something to work on some lenses, but other lenses simply wouldn't respond. You couldn't get them to wet. So they must have had some very sophisticated coatings on them, especially high-end prescription eyeglasses. Mm-hmm. So we wanted something that would work on everybody's glasses, no matter how expensive or how cheap or whatever it was. We wanted them to work on everyday glasses, not just cheap safety glasses. That took an extra couple of months of experiments and trying different glass, vendors, everybody and anybody's that we could find. And we finally came up with something that worked. So that's when we stopped inventing and started producing.
So how do you produce? I mean, I assume you didn't build a factory.
Not at the first round. Typical production volumes are in the hundreds of thousands for these things. So once you get the machines rolling, they just charge on and on. And I have videos of it running and so forth. It's kind of fun. But so we went to a couple different tool producers that are here in the States, one up in Wisconsin and one over in California. And so we charged off down the route with the guys in California and had them manufacture. I have a buddy who has a small manufacturing operation down in Indiana. And so we got together down there and used his facility to mix up the solution, because that's the key part, right? You make the solution, send that out to the guys, and they just squirt it in the package for you. So that's kind of the trick there.
And who's your target customer right now, or your different target customers? Because obviously you said the less than 100 small manufacturers, there's 600,000 of them.
Yeah.
How many times do I have to clean my glasses in a day, or do that to my glasses in a day?
Oh, once for the week.
Once?
Yeah, as long as,
for the week?
For the week, yeah. As long as you're not one of these shirt tail people, where you grab your glasses and clean them off on the shirt tail, you just wipe it all off, right? It won't work. But yeah, no, if you're using safety glasses and they get dusty, what you do, and this is the other advantage, you put the little product back in its little pouch. After you're done cleaning, you pull it back out and you wipe it down again. Don't clean them and restore the anti-fog effect. When you're done, you just shove it back in your little pouch, drop it back in your lunchbox, and go on your work. When it runs out, and there's plenty of material on there for up to, I think we had my father-in-law use it 20 times. He's a farmer. He's pretty frugal. But yeah, I would say once a week. You have one pack a week and it covers you for the week.
So that's 60 million people, right? Is that?
It's a lot of 600.
Did you say 600,000
times 100? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that'd be a good business if you got all of them.
Come on, you know marketing. Marketing's okay. If I can get 1%, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for 10. There are now there's 2 new competitors and possibly another one coming out right now that also have pretty effective technology, and they're not the same. They're not violating the patent. They don't work as well, but they're also some deep pockets in some cases. So we're the little guy out competing with an American-made product against somebody like I don't know if you know Zeiss Optical.
I do.
They do, yeah. That's a big outfit, man, out of Germany. Oh yeah, and they're having them made in China. So I can't compete on price. That's not possible. But I can compete on performance and integrity, I guess you might say. I don't want to impugn anybody, but yeah, a little bit of that too.
Right. Yeah. So how's it been going so far? Are you seeing growth? Has it been pretty good?
It has. I had to take a vacation with my in-laws. My father-in-law, mother-in-law are limited mobility in some cases. So we got a chance to go see my brother-in-law in Utah again, of all places. So that took a little bit of time out of the project. But yeah, we just landed an order. We're working with a company in Grand Rapids that has a small sales team, and one of their sales guys got a 3,000 unit order at a small manufacturer. So we sent that out last week. We've had, just a few hundreds go out through the website, BlurBusterz.com. It's BlurBusterz with a Z. You can order directly online there. The main challenge is finding hungry salespeople, people that want to go door to door, people that want to make a lot of cold calls and do that sort of thing. And I much prefer to do inventing, and I can do supply chain and stuff like that. That's all in my wheelhouse. I used to be in sales, and it's okay, but
yeah.
We're planning on growing a lot before the end of the year.
So let's say, with the mask, anybody who wears glasses is definitely in your market, right?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Is that same without a mask?
Yeah, certainly. I know I've been in the South or even the south of Michigan in the summertime, and it gets pretty darn humid, and then you walk into an air-conditioned grocery or something, and all of a sudden you're fogged up. And if you're dependent on those glasses to be able to see what's in front of you, you're going to take them off and wipe them. You have to. Whereas even without a mask, if you walk into a store like that, you're going to still be able to see clearly.
Yeah. If can you ship internationally?
We can.
Okay. I have a ton of friends in Dubai, and then I know that I remember whenever they would walk in to the air conditioning, right? Everyone was taking their glasses off and doing the shirt thing, like you said.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's also dusty.
Bad for the glasses too, right? The dust and the shirt tail combine to destroy your lenses after a while.
And your product's safe for the glasses, I'm sure. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. This is just polypropylene. It is synthetic. We're looking for a natural alternative, but synthetic works fine and it won't harm any of the lens materials. So That's the key. And the chemistry won't either. It's,
I want to ask you a question, but I promised you I wouldn't come at you sideways, but I don't, I don't think
can I eat
am.
it? Can I eat it?
Well,
Is it
not
toxic?
so much, but, we're all concerned about PFAS. Is there any contribution that you're making to that? Do you have ideas about that?
Absolutely. PFAS, PFOS, nasty bioaccumulating, persistent chemicals. And I'm very aware of what DuPont did in Washington County. No, the AFFF foam that has caused so much of the PFAS problems is based on an perfluorinated, but it's octofluorinated. These materials are based on the new generation of fluorinated surfactants. So they have a hex that is 6-carbon fluorinated, aliphatic that is oil loving. Actually, it's not even oil loving. It hates oil too. So it has been shown to break down readily in the environment and not bioaccumulate. So it is a safe but advanced surfactant soap.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
you.
Very sensitive to that. I used to have a role in, used to be a marine chemist trainee in the shipyards. And my whole job, along with my mentor, was to make sure ships were safe to work on. So you could imagine everything from asbestos to solvents to, lack of oxygen inside of a tank. We would be making sure it was safe to work on.
Yeah, I was hoping that was going to be your answer. I was sure it was going to be because you just said how much you loved Lake Michigan. So, yeah, awesome. So this is a product.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You said you kind of, got into it, not necessarily with intention. It kind of, I wouldn't say you stumbled into it, but somewhere in between those two things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are you doing a whole product line or different products? You said you were an inventor, I think. I assumed you were when I saw the product. What are you trying to do? What's kind of a common theme or something there?
The overall mission is to bring science to solve everyday needs and to not be scared of ways to do that. Really, all science is just a way of talking about the natural world, in my view. And all we're doing is taking things in the natural world and putting them in the right place so that they can do things that make our life easier, better, safer, whatever it is. The company is running an LLC called Fog Off. Okay, so that owns the trademark and the patent. But the Fog Off LLC is held by a holding company in Delaware called Sciency Products Incorporated. We just started that company to provide kind of an umbrella over a whole bunch of different ideas. So next iteration of this product is going to be a simpler to use dry wipe, okay, which can be more suitable for the industrial market. The next iteration in the product portfolio is a dry lotion wipe. So after you're done hand sanitizing, you can take a wipe like this, dry, put it on your hands, and not have to carry around a bottle of goopy stuff in your purse or your pocket. Yeah. So especially for guys, it's going to be scented, so we'll have a guy scent for one at least. Guys don't like that Jergens crap. I don't like Jergens, so let's put it that way. But yeah, that's the plan, is to have a full product line. The initial focus is going to be on this route, right, the packaged route. But then again, Sciency Products could be doing other things too, like how about a solar-powered home refrigeration unit? Some things like that perhaps relies on an ammonia cycle refrigerant. I don't know. There could be a lot of different things out there that could be done.
I've been designing one of those for the last 8 days.
8 days, because it got 80 degrees. Yeah.
Well, we've got a food safety issue that's brewing a little bit with the food that we distribute, and we've got an old refrigerator that we put ice packs in. But I just want to. We've built Tesla power walls ourselves and things before, so we've got to just figure out the amperage, and if we're able. I don't want to have 50 solar panels out there just to run a refrigerator.
That's where it's different. See, that's where Sciency comes in, because yes, thermoelectrics are great. They run fine. They're fairly efficient to the Peltier thing. But this concept is based on a chemical principle that involves ammonia, water, and a little bit of hydrogen gas in a sealed loop. And by putting heat on one part, you separate the two. When they combine back together, they absorb heat out of the environment, thus refrigeration. The other one that's really cool is thermoacoustic refrigeration. And there was actually some prototypes built a few years back, and I don't know what happened to them, where they take sound waves. And remember, sound is just a compression and a rarefication of gas, right? Well, what is a compressor? A rarefication and expansion of gas. That's refrigeration. So what they're doing is capturing the rarefied gas and the pressurized gas in a tube, a resonant tube. It's amazing. It's really cool. Anyway.
We've talked about that. It was when we were first starting to build our batteries about a different way to build refrigeration. Now you got me interested in that again. I'm never going to get this done.
Yeah, I gotta sit down and crunch some numbers and see based on efficiency or what it has to be in order to actually make it work effectively and cost effectively. So there's other work to be done before that.
And there's something you can do with the surface temperature versus the air temperature to produce electricity. Is that true?
I haven't heard much about that. There's a lot of different surface effects, though. One of the things I'm really keenly interested in is metamaterials. And it's kind of a catchword for a lot of different things. But in fact, just the other night, I came up with a concept I call crackle. And what it is an idea for a self-assembling surface in a coating that provides a super hydrophobic surface. You know, you can make those in the lab now, but they're a pain in the butt. That there's a way to, I think there's a way to do it by just natural means, having DNA assemble certain organic molecules that then have a 3D structure that creates little spikes that make it super hydrophobic. There's a lot of different ideas out there. Just got to get time.
So is that, you know, people think that nanotechnology is necessary, a really small robot with all these working parts.
That's true.
But it's not always that, right?
No.
It can be you training your chemistry training your molecules to do certain things, right?
All right, we're at a cusp right now in terms of the different fields of science, the biology that you mentioned CRISPR the other day or earlier, and the fact that we can now manipulate these biological molecules, we can make them ourselves, and we can learn how, and with the AI, we can learn how they fold and how they take shapes and how they interact with one another to create structures on a nanoscale repeatably and consistently. So the idea is to take that basic technology and now put it to practical problems. The whole mission behind Sciencey products. The whole reason for BlurBusterz and why it works, taking the science and putting it to a practical problem. I would challenge any one of the other manufacturers to have a sound, solid scientific discussion about how these work. Be interesting.
Do you do anything with like the National Science Foundation or anybody like that? Like, are you doing any SBIRs or not quite that big yet?
I don't have the depth to be able to do that. The bandwidth is there, but the horsepower is not. So you kind of get the drift there. One of the things I worked on in a career was the fire safety group at NIST, the National Institute of Science and Technology. And so I was on a panel for them, and we did a report and so forth. And I know there's a solution for making wood structure buildings and fabrics completely fireproof. That doesn't change their characteristics mechanically at all. It's very simple to do. And I even know there's a pilot facility to do it, you know, but again, that's not number one on the table right now. So yes, short answer, yes.
So what do you do every damn day to push this mission forward of bringing real sophisticated science, is what I would say, into everyday products?
Yeah, that's a tough question, Jerry. I get comments back from those that love me that I talk too much about things that people aren't interested in, and so it comes down to constantly feeding every day, constantly feeding new information in, and just letting it digest. And then when something happens, and somehow I don't know how, but you get a little flash. You go, wow, I remember reading about something like that. I wonder if that could be, applied here to solve that problem, and on and on and on. And so, yeah, there's a lot of notes in the old, old phone there.
Again, I don't want to, I'm hoping that this doesn't sound wrong, but you sound like this really good scientist, chemist, inventor that turns into a commercial. What's that thing called? A
telemarketer.
Yeah, like not a telemarketer.
Ron Popeil.
Like a info commercial.
Yes.
Like
Ron
the product.
Popeil.
Yeah. Okay. And I don't think
soapbox. Okay.
On the infomercial, you probably don't talk about all the science like that. You just say science, and everyone goes, "Ooh, science!" But this is some sophisticated stuff, right? That you're talking about doing.
I'm glad you brought that up, Jerry, because one of the mission's subtext here is to teach people about science and about how science is really just observing the natural world and talking about it, nothing more. If you want to make a hypothesis or have an idea, test it, share it, and let somebody else test it. And if it works, it works. Now you can talk about it as science, as proven science, as opposed to speculative science. So that's the mission.
Not political, but in the last year, everybody has a vision of what science is or what science is not, right? And a whole side of people said, I'm a scientist now, and this is what you do. And a whole other people said, that's bullshit science. You don't know what you're talking about. Did you cringe every day? Probably from all sides.
Well, ever since 2016, I'm sorry, it's just that way. That was too much. The idea that people, whether we like it or not, we all live in the same physical world that operates on relatively uniform physical properties, right? I mean, that is hopefully a shared reality that we have. But our interpretation of that is different because we all bring in that shared reality through our own unique and individual ways of interacting with it. Sight, sound, smell, touch, taste, the five senses, and then so on. So that interpretation of that reality now becomes our own. And how do we get that out so that we can come to some commonality of that interpretation of what that is out there? That's the challenge. And so I constantly try to talk to people about what's really happening about some of the most mundane things that they encounter in their lives, whether it's how do glasses actually get your vision corrected, or what's a lithium ion battery doing, storing electrons, or anything. You just talk and come to some common goal, some common understanding.
So now I understand what your wife was talking about, where you're at dinner talking about science and like
yeah, honey, let's talk about the grandkids or something.
Yeah. So we daisy chain the shows together, and sorry. Yesterday on the show, I had a scientist. She works in the lactation field. She is getting her PhD in. It's actually a brand new PhD. She's going to be the first one in the world, but it's kind of a lactation scientist, medical doctor. And she's got an invention that, a baby that really acts like a baby when it comes to nursing, and different things you can put on yourself to understand how to breastfeed better. She said 75% of women or people struggle with breast or chest feeding. And her question to you was, when you wake up in the morning and get to work, how do you know that it's going to be impactful? What motivates you around that impactfulness?
How do I know? I mean, usually in that twilight between waking up and actually getting out of bed, it's, there's like dreams that I have going on that are just flowing. And it's all about peace and understanding. I mean, it's right out of a song from the Beatles, right? I really try to use that moment almost as a meditative moment to think through how what I'm going to do today is going to change somebody's life, even in the smallest of ways. And most days it's pretty small, but other days it can be a little bit larger, and that's where I get motivated. I really like to put that out there.
I got in my daughter's car yesterday to run to the store real quick, and the temperature was falling fairly quickly. And the inside of her windshield was all fogged up, and I couldn't get it really clear quickly. And I was just in a hurry. I was going 3 blocks. So I'm driving sort of unsafe. Like I'm taking this curve. Yeah. And with your product, is that too big for your product? Is that something on the horizon?
That's something we could look at. There's some other issues associated with that, though, and that's mainly the plasticizers that's in your upholstery, because they coat the inside of the window. So I got to figure out a way to make the plasticizers and the surfactant work together rather than try to clean them all off. Because as soon as you clean them off, they're going to be back on there until your car doesn't smell like a car anymore. Maybe it smells like your dog. It might be okay, but yeah. It's too variable between vehicle to vehicle to be able to offer something out there to the general population.
I guess what I was really getting at is a lot of this is a safety issue, right?
That's right.
Because taking your glasses off in the middle of a manufacturing floor to clean them off that's the time you're going to get hit in the eye with something, right?
Yeah. Or worse, you do this, I have seen more times than I care to admit that guys prop them up here, and then when the boss comes by, they'll do that. That's happens because they can't see through them, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I've seen that very often too.
Yeah.
And it's usually right when you're looking at the most dangerous thing.
Because you got to see it close to get it right. And you want to get it. Everybody wants to do it right. You don't want to mess it up, and that's the frustration, right? You need things to make that frictionless if you can, to get to the right answer, get the right product, the right thing. Yeah, I mean, we built this company, my wife is in education as an administrator in a nonprofit. So she's got a very big role in helping educate our young children. I think that to be the most important thing that any of us could do at this time. I try to do it by teaching science to anybody that'll stand still long enough. But at the same time, I can take my knowledge and my skills in business to create a product that does help make life a little safer, a little easier for everyday folks and for folks in the factory floor. So that's kind of the goal. That's the mission.
So tomorrow on the show, I've got a gentleman from Detroit who I don't know well. I'm just meeting him for the first time. I've watched some of his spoken word, which I think is amazing, but I think he's so much more than that. But what question or random question would you like to ask him? His name is Gerard, by the way.
Gerard, okay, Gerard. Yeah, I think I kind of alluded to it a little bit there. I would ask, as my perception of our framework here that we're working in is that there's an objective reality and that we're all wandering around. How do you go about connecting people to one another, given that we're all interpreting objective reality in a slightly different way? How do you connect with people that way?
When you asked that question earlier, I was thinking, when I was a little kid, I figured out I was a mathematician since the day I was born, for sure. And I figured out that, my definition of red does not have to be your definition of red. If somebody told me that blue was red every single day, I would call that red all the time. Or more importantly, I think if what's hitting my eyes is different than what hits your eyes, your view of red would never be the same view as mine. We would have a common thing that we would point to because it's all we've ever known and all we could ever really see, right? Mm-hmm. And that we could prove, almost like solipsism, if you know what that is.
I do, yes. Mm-hmm.
And you must know what that is because it's kind of the essence of maybe your question.
Mm-hmm.
How would you answer that question?
I'd go back to science. I'd say, red. Well, that's a frequency of 230 nanometer in the wavelength. And I know that electromagnetic energy, I can measure it, I can see it.
Yeah.
And then you say, okay, well, what's it doing inside here? That's a whole different matter.
Right. And that's really where I was going to. But how would you answer your own question? How do you connect with people that are delusional?
Jerry, you didn't say I had to have an answer. I was hoping to hear an answer from Gerald. If he's a poet, I would hope he'd have a really good answer for me.
He's going to have a great answer.
I honestly, that's something I struggle with. In all honesty, Jerry, it becomes far too easy to put on a persona and simply act a part. And that way you don't ever actually have to connect with somebody on any meaningful level. So it's tough enough with family and friends, and then you have strangers. And so, yeah, I don't have a good answer for that. Maybe this is part of it, Jerry. This is part of it, I think.
I think as a scientist, it must be tough to, and me as a mathematician or even an entrepreneur who wants to stay objective as much as I possibly can so I don't take that wrong turn because of my ego or something like that. You don't want to compromise that science, right? You're not going to meet somebody in the middle about probabilities and, distributions and whatnot. Does that make it tougher on you, you think?
Fortunately, the statistical nature of the world, that is, nothing is a single point, generally speaking, in our experience, our lived experience, that does make it easier because then you can talk about the ranges. And
yeah.
Okay, so that does make it easier, actually, because it's possible then to kind of reach over into somebody else's worldview and say, yeah, you're right, 10% of the time, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then move back from there. Mm-hmm.
All right. So now something that maybe people wouldn't think about science, but maybe you've got a view on it. Happiness, sadness, joy, and hope. Is that a scientific thing? Is that a nebulous thing?
That's a good question, Derek, because you're bridging between the brain chemistry and the psychology of it and the spiritual side of it. And so I'm convinced, and I would believe for good reason, that it is possible for one to have a happy and positive life by thinking so. I've seen many examples, and even in my own life, where things aren't going well, but if you put yourself in the right mental attitude, the only thing you can control, generally things tend to work out. And if they don't, then you've done your best, and you can rest or suffer in peace. Yeah. Depending on how the outcome is. And unfortunately, the world is not fair. Mother Nature doesn't give a hoot about us, frankly. So yeah, you got to kind of come to that realization at some point. That's happiness. Joy, yeah, it sparks, things that work right the first time, or when I get to pick up my granddaughters, my grandson, that's joy. That's just almost tears come to my eyes, just even thinking about it right now, the swelling of the heart and all that. So what was your other question then?
Just hope. What do you think about hope?
Well, if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be here right now. I mean, hope is having the ability to think to the future. Hope is hoping that we have an earth for those grandkids to enjoy, as I have. So those are some of the really deep areas that I know as a human being we all share.
Yeah. As an entrepreneur, do you find yourself really optimistic?
I'd say cautiously optimistic. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
cautiously optimistic. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, obviously, but whether you're looking at the economy or politics or just our, global environment, there are things that can go wrong and things that can go right. We have some influence over some of them, but not all of them. And so we have to do two things, right? One is do the best we can to make it the way we want it, live the dream you have. The second is accept that you can't. It's the old Ecclesiastics, right? Have the wisdom to know the difference. And that's how you find peace in your life.
Thank you so much for that. I enjoyed that. BlurBusterz.com We can direct order there. Is there
With a
any
Z.
with a Z? I put it in the comments, and it is also in the on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as well. Is there any place? What else did we forget to talk about in the realm of that? Like, how do we connect with you from ordering that? Is it BlurBusterz.com, or can I go to Walgreens or whatever? Are you in any retail?
We're actually working on Walmart has an open call coming up actually next week for their USA manufacturers. So we're gonna see whether they want to talk to us or not. We're months away from that. Online is really the way to go. You can order them there, and we have a wonderful fulfillment service through what we call SVRC, Saginaw Valley Resource Corporation.
I know it.
It's a .org, and it employs folks that have trouble finding work in other areas, so physically and mentally disabled. They do a great job. So definitely get it out there. Just get it out. No problem.
How do we follow you into the future? Because you're going to do a lot more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. LinkedIn, Facebook. I think we have an Instagram. We got a Twitter account. And we're out there all. We're not terribly active, but we do try to keep them updated with new products and new ideas, new articles, and so forth.
All right. Is there anything else we forgot to talk about? Like, are you working on a masterpiece, oil painting in the back room, or singing in your spare time, writing old Beatles song remakes?
I wish I were more musically. I love music, but no. When a friend's daughter, Elena, gave me her opus magnum, she wrote at 14. Asked me to review it. I said, "Oh my God, I've got to write. I got to write." This 14-year-old is putting out 3 volumes of, 30,000 words each, and it's not bad, right? It's young adult fiction. I got to get my act together and get some of that on paper at some point.
Yeah. Do you want to write fiction, or just
fiction? Has to be fiction, because nobody would believe it even if it were true. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Then I'm going to let you take us out with something real quick. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Charles, for being on the show. I think this is extremely interesting. The path to, we didn't quite exactly go through all of the product development steps, but a good overview, I think. And just putting science to work and making it happen. I'm really proud to have you on the show, and I really appreciate what you talked to us about today. And everybody else, every damn day at 2 p.m. We'll be back tomorrow, and we've got about 110. Well, you're episode 255, so we have 110 left to go in a row here, and then we'll see what we're going to do after that. So what would you like to take us out with, Charles?
Well, I just want to thank you, Jerry, for what you're doing in the Fledge, and the organization that you set up there. I think that's awesome. But it was a number of years ago, probably 10, 15 years ago. NPR has their music that we're listening to today's kind of feature they did. And they were talking to a group of artists in a loft somewhere, I don't know, in New York somewhere. They had Joe Satriani surfing with the alien. So here I am working at the rocket factory, and I'm just going to be listening to this. Let's see if you can hear it, because it's going to play through my headphones. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it as it comes on.
You usually would have to share your audio through StreamYard, so probably not.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can hear that over my voice. Nope.
Mm-mm.
Anyway, we're going out on Surfing with the Alien by Joe Satriani.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everyone,
Thank you,
will see you later. And stick with me for a second, if you don't mind, Charles, while I end the broadcast.